Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timo Parker. I'm a vocal coach and I'm here to help you to improve your singing voice. So today I want to talk about a very particular sound which is actually not too bad for you, but we get into this in this video. I want to talk about the froggy sound. So for example, if you're singing and you have a sound like this, hey, yeah, 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 yeah. So this is how it would sound if I would speak with a froggy sound. So there's a certain muscle involved in this sound, and I want to explore in this video which muscles are responsible for the sound, what that means anatomically speaking, what's happening in your throat, and also find out if the sound is good or bad for you. So let's dive right into it. So first of all, if you fight with this problem of having a froggy sound when you sing at a certain height in your range, or maybe in general, first things first, you don't have to worry. It's nothing bad for your voice, it's just a crutch that your voice is using. So what I mean by that is the following. So you know, if you've seen previous videos on this channel, if not, make sure to check out the playlist here, that we need a certain muscle balance in our system so our vocal tract can operate freely and most efficiently. And there are two muscles that can get involved into the singing process to help us out, because we might not have the muscular strength in other areas in our throat yet, or we are using too much force, too much engagement in our throat. So the two muscles that are responsible for the sound are the thyropharyngeus and or the cricopharyngeus. So that's a half circular muscle that goes around the pharynx, as the name suggests, and the esophagus, so it wraps around it and attaches around either to the cricoid cartilage or the thyroid cartilage, depending on which muscle. You're probably going to see a graphic here on the side. So as we know, when a muscle contracts, it shortens itself, and this contraction is happening. So when this circular muscle contracts, it pulls the thyroid cartilage a bit backwards and compresses the pharynx and the esophagus. So the question is, why does this happen? So most of the times when we are singing and let's say our yawning muscle is not trained really well yet to keep our thyroid cartilage in a lower position, the larynx naturally wants to rise with higher notes. And what we try to do with voice training is that we prevent this rise from happening by training our yawning muscle. So sometimes this yawning muscle, especially in the beginning, is not strong enough to keep the larynx in a low position. I just recently posted another video about a muscle, the sternohyoid muscle, the long muscle here, which we shouldn't use when we yawn. So if you're new to this topic, make sure to check this video out. But basically, if we don't have the strength yet, these two muscles, the thyropharyngeus and the cricoid pharyngeus, can help us to keep the thyroid cartilage, aka larynx, in a lower position. Because they wrap around the esophagus and the pharynx and they're kind of in a fixed position, when they contract, they literally pull the thyroid cartilage towards the back and they kind of pin it there. So it can't raise any further up, which is good because when the larynx moves up all the way to the higher bone, it can get compressed. So by using this froggy sound, you can actually protect your larynx from compression. And most likely when this is happening in your voice, especially unintentional, if it's just happening because you want to prevent this an unnice feeling in your throat, this is most likely a reflex of your body to protect your thyroid cartilage from this compression. I had this problem when I started out training all these muscles, and my vocal coach back then said, don't worry about it, it's gonna go away. And she was right. So basically what happened to me is that in the beginning, when I tried to do all these yawny sounds that I show here on the channel, was that I would get this froggy sound. And I can still imitate it pretty well. As you could hear in the beginning, I can still do these sounds very well. So it sounds a bit funny, but this is this froggy sound that I'm talking about. And this froggy sound was pretty present in my voice, especially towards the higher notes. And she said, as soon as your yawning muscle is gonna get strong enough, you will realize that you can relax a little more and your thyroid cartilage will stay lower. And at some point, these two muscles that are responsible for the froggy sound almost fade out by themselves because I didn't have to use them as a crutch anymore to keep my larynx in a lower position. So if you have this problem, don't worry too much about it. It can be for some people, it's not the case for everyone, but for some people it can be part of the journey. And if you're training the right muscles, you will get rid of it. So nothing too bad. So most of the times people try to stay away from the sound as soon as possible and don't even try to get into the sound world, which I completely understand, and I think overall it's probably not the aim to sound like this. But if you have this problem, it doesn't have to be your first priority to get rid of it. As I said, for some people it can be part of the journey. On the other hand, if you have this froggy sound in your voice and maybe you have been training your yawning muscle for a while and your instrument overall got stronger, but you still have this froggy sound in your voice, there is a high chance that you have to work a bit more with muscle coordination and specifically with relaxation. Because whenever we are using muscles that are not supposed to be involved in a process, that means that we don't have the necessary fine motor skills that we need to use, for example, just the yawning muscle. See if you can relax and really intentionally just activate the yawning muscle, making sure that you don't have this froggy sound in your voice. Okay, let's say you've tried. You try to stay relaxed and this froggy sound still creeps in. There is one last trick that you could try, and that is bringing some movement into your body, a shaking sensation. So whenever you move your body, and especially if you move it a bit faster, for example something like this where you really shake, it's almost better when you're standing. I would be out of the shot now, but if you're, for example, on your feet and you start to bounce and you have this shaking sensation, this shaking feeling, this movement relaxes a lot of parts of your body. And it can also relax the muscles that are responsible for the froggy sound. So what you could try is to, for example, sing a note or a phrase where you have the problem with the froggy sound and then try to shake. You can either get both of your hands and start shaking around intensively or bouncing around and see if you can relax these muscles to get them out of the process. And don't be afraid of using this support. It's just there for you to find the trigger to get rid of the froggy sound in the first place. Because if it's really part of your, let's say, sound, or you've been using the sound for a long time, it can be hard to pinpoint what you have to let go of. And just by bouncing around and shaking and moving around, it can help you to experience how it would feel like if you're not sounding froggy. And I want to end this video with a little funny side note. So when you're using one or both of these muscles that are responsible for the froggy sound, it can happen that while you're singing or shortly after you sang, that you develop hiccups. So the thing is that this round circular muscle that wraps around the pharynx and the esophagus is also active, for example, when you're eating and swallowing. And sometimes when we eat afterwards, we all know that we can get a hiccup. This is a bit a simulation of this. So if you use these muscles a lot and they contract constantly, a little bit or a lot, you interrupt the airflow, and sometimes air that is in your stomach can't flow out because you close down the esophagus a bit too much. And then you develop hiccups. So if you ever got a hiccups while you were singing, this is most likely the reason why it happened. If this is the case, leave a comment below, share your experience if you ever had a hiccup after singing or while you were singing. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful, please make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you're interested in working with me, make sure to check out the link in the description box below, which takes you to my website. There you can book one-on-one classes with me, and we can work on your voice, on the right muscle development, working on your range, opening up your voice, and most importantly, making sure you're not using the muscles that are responsible for the froggy sound. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.